Hello and welcome to Mind Matters with Sandy and Kathleen. No, Sandy, again, as this is another video and podcast in our series of My Corona, as I'm calling it, our experience of COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, and how we are dealing with it around the world. So I am welcoming the lovely Wei Chien. Hello. And you are in Singapore. So we're going around the world. So we've spoken to a couple of people in Australia, if you haven't seen those videos or heard the podcast, and now we're in Singapore. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Wei Chien.
Hey, Kathleen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. And very happy to be on the show as well to share with all of you my experience, during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I live in Singapore and my family is in Malaysia.
So you're separated from your family. You're the only one there in Singapore.
I have my sisters, but my sisters are married, so they're not living together with me. So I'm alone in Singapore, yes.
And you keep in constant contact with your family at home?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm talking to my mom almost on a daily basis right now. I mean, in the past, before the crisis, I call her a couple of days, but right now it's almost daily, yes.
Yeah. Every couple of days. You're a good daughter. You're a very good daughter. Some people couldn't say every couple of days, but that's every day. So
it's part of the Asian culture.
Well, that's true. You can't stray far from that word. And your sisters, so your sisters are in Singapore?
Yeah,
yes.
One of my sisters is in Singapore, yeah. So she's married, so children, yeah. But I don't stay with them, yeah.
No. So how do they live? Do you normally see them? If we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, would you see them?
Yes, I do. Like, every other weekend, if I'm not traveling, I get to see them, but not now.
Not now.
Under the lockdown, no.
And they have children as well, do they?
Yes, my sister has 2 young children. So there's a lot of stress for her as well right now because the schools and all the childcare are closed in Singapore.
And everyone's working from home. So I've been talking to Wei Chien a few times in the last couple of weeks about what's been going on in Singapore. And every time we do discuss things, the situation has changed quite dramatically. So things were,
Yes.
So let's go back a little bit. So you've been working from home since the second week in February, is that correct?
Yes. Singapore as a country raised the disease outbreak and control response since February 7. I still remember that was a Friday. So our company has taken the same precaution as well. So we activated the business continuity plan and I started working from home on that following week on February 10. So I've been staying at home for quite a while. But in February, it was still okay. We can still go out and we are not required to wear a mask as well. But just to your point, the precaution, the advisories are getting tighter by the days. So it's harder to go out right now and we need to wear a mask.
Sorry to interrupt you. That was a new directive, wasn't it, about wearing masks in public? That only came in, was it about a week ago, 10 days ago?
Yes.
Yeah, so that
you're
was
absolutely right.
So prior to that, it was optional?
Yes.
Yes.
If you are sick, then you should wear a mask. That was the advisory in the past, but now is no.
No. And so
is wearing a mask compulsory in Australia at this point?
No.
Okay.
At this point in time, so this is being recorded on the 19th of April, we're still having a PPE, a personal protective gear. I've gone totally
equipment.
I went blank then. My brain was turned off. We're having a PPE shortage issue here still in Australia. So they're sort of asking people to either make your own masks, not to buy up a lot of masks so that it's not taking away from the medical professionals. Having said that, we don't have a lot of cases here at the moment. So we were just discussing this before, that I think we have, and I could look it up exactly, there was about 6,500, I want to say, in Australia, of which the vast majority have recovered. So in Victoria, we only have today around about 140 people that are still positive and active, and half of those are in hospital. So of which I think about 15 off the top of my head are in ICU. So we haven't got a lot of people out in the community with it, and we've been doing broad community testing for about the last 5 days, where they will test anyone that has any symptom of COVID-19, regardless of where you have or haven't travelled, or if you know you've been in contact with someone. So you can just basically say, I've got a sore throat and a fever, and they will test you at a fever clinic. It's quite a different situation in Singapore, isn't it? With so you need to wear a mask when you go out.
Yes, but not necessarily surgical masks. The government distributed reusable cloth, washable face masks, just to your point, because there is indeed a shortage of PPE. But, you know, but we are encouraged, no, sorry, it's mandatory right now. We do have to wear that mask when we go out. But it's good that Australia has it under control, at least at where you are. But people still need to stay vigilant. That is for sure.
Right. That's right. And we've got, so we're till May the 11th, they're reviewing the statewide restrictions that we have. And then I believe it's May 17th, they're reviewing the federal ones, but I would not expect those to be lifted at all for at least another fortnight before after that. So maybe in June sometime they may relax things. But so, and there was also, so you're obviously, like you said, you've been working from home since the beginning of February, but that was your company selected that, but then it became mandatory. When was that about? That was about 2 weeks ago, was it, that they decided?
About yeah. I mean, the government really mandated working from home, I think 2 to 3 weeks ago, yes.
So you live on your own?
Yes.
Yes. So how do you find that? Are you generally a social person? Are you out there, dinner with friends, drinks after work? Do you do aerobics on a Tuesday night? What is it that, are you out there doing lots of things in the community normally?
I guess I do to a certain extent, but at the same time, I am also, so on this question about whether I'm a sociable person, I guess a lot of my friends are, you know, from all over the world, people like Laurel. So my social interaction, yes, for the friends that I have locally in Singapore, I enjoy drinks with them, but at the same time, my interaction with a lot of my friends are actually virtual. Way before COVID-19. So where we are right now, it does change to a certain extent. I mean, I haven't had happy hour for a long time. Do I miss that? Yes, I do. But it's not something that it is, you know, I understand the situation and what we need to do right now. So I wouldn't get too stressed over a change in terms of my social interaction. For the friends that I have locally in Singapore, we do Zoom calls, just like what you and I are doing right now. We have a virtual high tea, which is quite fun. So yeah, life still goes on. It's just, you know, it's just different ways of interacting and connecting with all the friends and family that you have.
And so you're quite comfortable with being at home on your own 4 days at a time. Like how long has it been since you've left the house now?
How long have I been in the house? As I said, since February, middle of February.
So you haven't, no, what I get is how long has it been since you've physically walked outside your door? Because you must go shopping and to get food.
I've got most of my shopping online.
Oh.
I do go downstairs for a walk. So the last time when I went downstairs for a walk, it was yesterday.
Okay.
So, but I wasn't really interacting with people. Like I don't talk to people anymore when I go for a walk. No.
Well, I had the most amount of social interaction with people today, because I was saying before, I was working in the garden at our rental property, which is in the front garden. And I couldn't believe the volume of foot traffic of people coming past, and everybody was hello. They were very happy to say hello, because I think because we've all been in our houses for so long that they'll talk to a stranger that's pulling weeds out of a garden, because that's someone to talk to. So I've had a lot of social interaction, even though maintaining about 2 or 3 meters of distance from where I was working to the footpath. But
yeah,
I was
social distancing. I can see that, but no, I haven't experienced that where I am. Maybe I wasn't friendly as well at all. It was like, okay, put on your mask, social distancing, stay far away from me.
I'm sure that's not the case. So you're getting food delivered online. are you?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, it's been a bit of a challenge to get that done here in Australia. The supermarkets have been unable to cope with deliveries of groceries, so they've just restricted it basically to the high risk people, the vulnerable, as we call them.
Okay.
So ones over 65, I think it is, or over 70 it might be, or that are on a disability pension. So we have to go to the supermarket if we need supermarket items.
Okay.
So you're very lucky if you're able to get things delivered. I did get pizza.
It is, yeah. No, I'm not a big fan for pizza, but it's not that easy as well in Singapore. The slot are hard to get, so literally you have to plan quite carefully into when you get your delivery as well. So but it is still possible, and the good news is because I'm alone, so my food consumption is not that high as well versus somebody with a family like my sister. Those will be a lot challenging, so I do sympathize with her and a lot of people as well with the family. Yeah.
We're having that issue as well. I can't believe the volume of food we're going through. It's not me eating it. But when you have a 6.5-year-old at home, that he just thinks everything is he just wants to eat the fridge. He wants to eat, like he's eating more food than I could ever imagine. He eats more than what I do. I would say he eats more than twice what I do. And so I've had to shop. I'm going shopping once a fortnight, basically. But the amount of food that we buy is astounding. It's astounding, and we predominantly eat fresh food. So I go to the fruit market, fruit and vegetable market, and I buy huge amounts and I think we're never going to eat this, and then it's gone. So at least we're eating well, but he is eating a lot. So he's grown. I think he's grown maybe at least an inch since we went into self-isolation. So he's yeah. So I envy you. I envy you, first of all, being able to get shopping delivered, and secondly, not requiring a lot of it. So
well, when you have a family, it is indeed very different. Like my other sisters who live in Malaysia, same thing. When you have growing out child or children, they do eat a lot more, especially when they get trapped at home. So it is that balance, I guess, we as parents like yourself need to struggle. It's not easy, but it's part of learning, coping with the pandemic.
I think he's just happy at home. I think when he goes to school, he doesn't eat as much because he's away from here. So he's normally on the weekends, he is quite the eater. But now that we're doing home education, he's just like, oh, I'll have a mango and some grapes, and I'll have strawberries, and I might have a sandwich, and I'll have some of this, and could you make me mac and cheese? And, where are you putting it all? Like I say, he would eat more than twice what I do, easily. So that's been astounding. So with you,
exercise.
Well, we're doing that as well. He's incredibly active. So he's we have Nerf wars. So we take a Nerf gun, and there's a lot of activity, jumping over furniture and so on here, hiding because we don't want to be shot with a Nerf bullet. We also do hide and seek, but we get out in our park as well. So he rides his bike, and we take the dog out for a walk, and we go out in the park and play football and so on. So we're able to do that. Are you allowed to go? You're allowed to exercise, but are you allowed to go to the park?
No, the park is closed in Singapore now. So a couple of weeks ago it was open, but not anymore because of the escalating situation with the number of infection. For people that go out for exercise, if you're doing an exercise, so you're cycling and you're running, you're okay, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you're walking, like if you're walking your dogs and all this thing, you are required to wear a mask. So as you can imagine, the weather here is relatively warm. With a face mask that's cloth, is actually quite hard to breathe.
I imagine that would be quite uncomfortable. So when you go out for a walk, how long do you go for?
For myself, I don't go out, walking for a very long time, because for me, my exercise is really around doing yoga. So I'm a yoga practitioner, so I've done it for a long time. So that is part of my daily routine inside the house. So it does help me in terms of, in some way, coping with the change. with the COVID-19, because the daily routine for me is morning yoga and meditation. So that helps me focus better for the day. And it definitely boosts my energy level. And as you can imagine, with more oxygenated cells and a clearer focus for the day ahead, I generally feel a lot more relaxed and I have less things to worry about. So even I have a big meeting at work that particular day, I can still stay relatively calm and kind of focus on, what I wanted to do and how do I conclude on my day. So it is a big help for me from a stress level perspective. It allows me to face my day with a much more positive approach. So I would encourage all your listeners who are listening on the show to think about, kind of building out that routine themselves. Meditation,
Absolutely.
Stretching, simple exercise, but that routine and get your mind clear at the beginning of the day in the morning, it helps you a long way for the whole day.
Is that something you normally do? Oh, sorry. Is that something you normally do? So you've always done that and you've just kept that as part of your routine whilst you're in self-isolation?
Yes. I normally do this as well, but when I have to go to work, sometimes I will have to skip it in between because, you have to get yourself ready to go to work and all the other stuff. So now I don't have to go to work anymore. I kind of be able to balance that even better. So I find it really, really helpful for me. So I'm hoping that whoever listens to the podcast will kind of start to think about how do they want to plan their days as well, so that they can stay a little more relaxed and they can better manage their anxiety as well. I mean, that restlessness, anxiety are quite common these days for all of us.
Something we've talked about quite extensively in other podcasts has been maintaining a routine that is normal for you. So if you normally get up at 6:30 in the morning and you do half an hour of meditation, to maintain that, even if you are working from home, and to maintain, your meal times and your sleeping pattern, because that's what your body is set into, is that equilibrium. So that's a great tip. That's an absolute great tip that you've given. And I applaud you for that. I was going to ask you about how your time management normally is, but it sounds like you're normally pretty good, but sometimes you fall off the wagon there with having to cram yoga in during the day. So are you finding that you have more time on your hands with not having to travel to work?
Yes.
And
I do.
So you're happy to work by the sound of it?
Yes, in some way. The one thing that I do miss is a bit of back to what we talked about, social interaction.
Yeah.
We are all humans. We are social animals. Right now, you are being taken away that social interaction. You can't go for a coffee anymore. Yes, you can still see that person on your phone, on your laptop, but that, I guess, is not quite the same.
You're doing it in your environment rather than another environment, I was talking to my accountant the other day, and he's in Brisbane, up in the Queensland, northern states there. He was saying that the cafe that he always buys coffee from in the morning, he said they charge a little bit more for coffee because you can sit out and watch the river view and just all the palm trees and everything. And he said you take your coffee and you just walk out onto the street and go, I just need to go home now. So he said, he said he feels like they shouldn't charge as much because they're not getting the ambience. And I said, well, you couldn't have coffee at home, really. He's trying to maintain that. He goes out for a walk every morning. He's always done that. And normally he comes back and he sits in the cafe and he has breakfast and a coffee, and then he goes to work. He works from home as well. He works for a Melbourne-based business, but works in Brisbane. So he's used to working remotely and hopping on a plane and coming down here once a month for a couple of days. So he's used to the remote working. What he's not used to is enjoying that morning ritual of a walk, by breakfast in a cafe. So, but he's still doing the walk, which is a good part, a good thing for it. So, as a general rule, do you consider yourself an anxious person, or are you generally, because you're a yogi, so you're probably just on top of everything, I would imagine?
I am at least hoping I'm on top of everything. Not all the time.
See, there's another.
Doing my very best.
I want my listeners to hear that. I say this all the time. We are human. You can put
Yes.
practices in place, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be right 100% of the time. And sometimes we will have bad days because you are human. So sometimes
Yep.
it's harder.
Yes. And to be able to live with that imperfection in your life, and to be able to accept that as well. I think that's the key thing.
That's wonderful. We definitely instill that in Laurel. For those of you that haven't seen the interview, I did an interview with my good friend, long friend Laurel, who's in Melbourne CBD at the moment, and she's quite anxious about as we all are, about the viral threat. Although it does feel at the moment, as you were saying before, not to become complacent, because it does feel like there's much less of a threat than there was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, we were all fairly panicked. Now it's calmed down quite a bit, but we still have a long way to go. But is there anything that you find that raises your anxiety levels more? Like if you hear about somebody that you know that is tested positive, or is it that you watch or listen to the tightening of restrictions and think this is going the wrong way and fear what might happen?
I mean, at this point, touch wood, there isn't any cases. The friend of mine that I shared with you earlier, when my friend's father passed away, that was a very unfortunate event. But beyond that, my immediate family, friends, everybody else feels safe. So that hasn't been any those kind of anxiety that kind of hit me. In terms of reading the news, I guess I was reading something the other day about infodemic. As much as there is a pandemic that's going on, but there is also an infodemic that is going on, because news is just get circulated so widely, and in a way that sometimes is a little out of control. So I do constantly remind myself not to overreact when I read something. You always have to take it with a perspective. Yeah.
Where do you take most of where is your trusted news source?
For sure not CNN, not from the US.
I can't understand why. I don't.
All right. Okay. I hope no American is listening to this podcast. But anyway.
we actually have quite a big following in the US. I have to tell you, we have more American listeners than we do Australian. But they might very well feel exactly the same way that you do about CNN. So, and it is the same here. I picked up a post this morning on a Facebook page, a parenting Facebook page, and they'd put this article up with a picture of 2 children playing, and the headline was, "I'm sending my child back to school and I don't care what anyone thinks." And it's clickbait. And it's written by the marketing department, not an actual person. And it was to create this whole angst amongst parents going, you can't send your child back, and I think that this, and I'm an essential worker and I don't want that. And it was to create this air of anger and dialogue amongst parents. And I thought, this is wrong. Like, this is what's creating a lot of the issues here.
Exactly.
So who do you go to? So if you want to know what's going on, do you listen to a podcast because I listen to a podcast about viruses. I listen to TWIV, This Week in Virology. That's where I learn about the virus.
Yeah, for me, where I am, one of the sources that I always go to is Channel News Asia.
Okay.
That's a news coming from Singapore. I find that news to be fairly balanced. I also listen to a podcast. I cannot remember the guy's name right now. A guy's from the UK. So he does a podcast, a very simple podcast, and he has done it since the beginning of the pandemic, when all the European government wasn't reacting to the issue, to the virus, and he started that podcast. I thought what he has was pretty balanced and neutral. So that was the guy that I follow as well. Financial Times, I find them okay as well. I do follow the Australian news as well, which gives a very interesting perspective. Coming from Australia, so
that's very kind. That was a kind way of putting that.
Not that, because this is an Australia podcast.
That's right. A lot of the news sources here, I have seen them rehash things and again create fear. There was a headline came up on my phone that said scientists discover that virus mutates, and I'm like, viruses have always mutated, and it puts a negative connotation, whereas we actually know that this virus is more likely to mutate to a positive because it needs a host to be able to spread it, and so it needs to not kill the host. So it will mutate so that it can survive. But the headline grabbing is to create fear that it's mutating and it's going to kill everybody and it's going to, we're going to, and although Laurel is looking for zombies, she's really wanting zombies to come out of this. So she's a great lover of zombies. So perhaps she will get her way. But it's, yeah, so do you find that when you do feel anxious, you'll move away from the media that sensationalizes everything?
Yes, I do. When that news but to your point, like, people love those sensationalized kind of headlines. I guess it's human nature. It's really a bit of a human nature. So if I do feel myself get a little affected, this is where meditation helps, because it does keep your mind clearer when you look at something. So I will then take myself out from the news. I switch off my phone. I go do something else, and I go cook myself lunch so that I can come back. But yeah, we all need to be a little more cautious when we read news these days. The infodemic can be as bad as the pandemic itself. We don't want to run into a situation that you get killed because of you get so scared and all the other stuff that emotionally you break down before the virus gets to you, which I think is quite unfortunate. Yeah.
That's very, very well put. That's very well articulated. That's wonderful advice. It's true. We are in this for the long haul. It's not going to go away.
Yes.
This is, we don't actually, I keep correcting myself when I say we're in the midst of a pandemic. We're not. We're at the early stages of a pandemic. This is going to go along for a long period of time. And I suppose the faster you can find those processes that you can cope with in your apartment, which is if it's doing yoga and meditation in the morning or before bed or whatever it is, or as many times as you need it, or reading a book or taking yourself out for that walk or whatever it is, if that's what it does that keeps you feeling centered, relaxed and in control, then because really at the end of the day we can control our thoughts, but there's not much else we have any control over at the moment.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Kathleen. I cannot agree more. So hopefully your listener will take this and kind of digest it and internalize it, that everybody will be able to deal with this and cope with this a lot better. Because this is going to be a long haul.
What I've loved about this is that you're in a totally different country that has a very different way of life, very different way of living, but you still think the same, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Nothing is any different in the thinking, the feeling, the emotions. Doesn't matter if you're in the US watching CNN or if you're in Australia with some type of sensationalist Facebook page for parents. It doesn't matter what country you're in. The fear is the same. This virus does not know your nationality. It is not aware of it. It's not aware of your living situation. It's not aware of how much you earn. And pandemic, they call it a pandemic because it is a global pandemic that's affecting everybody, regardless of where you live, how you live. But you are coping with it exactly how I would suggest people do. So I give you a round of applause for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because to your point, we are all human, regardless of your background, your ethnicity. There's only one race that's called human race, and this virus doesn't discriminate, which is very interesting to talk about.
It does seem to dislike men more than women. So right. I don't know what it knows.
We are women, so it's okay, Kathleen. You and I are safe.
It's a female virus, I think. It's a female virus. Every time I look at the stats, I'm like, what are these men doing? But we will have to check back in with you in a couple of months' time and see how things are going, if that's all right with you. And
absolutely, be happy to come back to the show and talk to you and talk to your listeners as well. And hopefully we get to a much better state, better as in normal, but it will be a new normal.
That's right. Not normal, something new. We're calling it, I spoke to a friend today, we're going to call it, what did he call it? Normal 2.0 was what he called it. So, new version of
Yes.
normal for all of us. But if you have any questions that you would like to ask Wei Chien, by all means, email, or myself. You can email me at Sky, what do we even call it? Sky Wellbeing Centre at bigpond.com, which I'll put in the bio as well, and a link to, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put a link to the audio podcast, and also vice versa, if you're listening to the audio podcast, a link to the YouTube video. Thank you so much for your time, Wei Chien. It was wonderful to talk to you as always. And
thank you, Kathleen.
we might have to get you to
Lovely
lead us off
talking.
in a yoga class in time to come. You can keep us all calm with yoga.
Why not? The new normal 2.0, including virtual yoga.
You've made me feel guilty because I was doing Pilates. I do Pilates every day, a mixture of yoga and Pilates. I was doing it every day and I haven't been doing it. So you
have to get back to that. It is a wonderful exercise. I like Pilates as well, but I don't do that very often. But I would encourage everybody to do some form of stretching, exercise, and something to focus your mind on. That will help.
I noticed it being confined in the house. I've noticed how tight my muscles have gotten. Oh, we've lost Wei Chien. No, she's coming back.
Yes.
We lost you for a second. We lost you. Went to your wonderful, beautifully presented profile pic. But I've noticed how stiff I feel, how I'm not moving the same. But I find it very hard to do yoga and Pilates when you have a child and a dog. I get out the mat and I get joined by, the dog is underneath my legs or next to me, and I'm trying to, I spend most of my time with one hand out pushing the dog aside and the other one saying to my son, just stay there for a second, just let me. So it's not really relaxing. It's more of a, I should do it at night, probably for me, when everyone's in bed asleep. And
yeah. But it'd be harder when you have families and your pet running around. But do whatever you can. I think that's most important in this current time that we all dealing with different ways of life.
I think that's excellent advice. Well, we'll let you go now because it's just about you're 2 hours behind us, so it's dinner time. So you can go and cook nutritious for dinner. And I'm sure we will catch up soon. So thank you,
Kathleen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Yes, and we'll see you on the next podcast. But don't forget to check into the other episodes because we've got some equally wonderful interviews with other people from all over the place. And but how we're dealing with this wonderful pandemic that we're experiencing. So have a great day, everybody.